it's like mostly melted and the rest is pretty soft, it'll be fine. It's not something like a cookie recipe where, the status of the butter kind of matters a lot. Just as long as it's there in some capacity and it's not like rock solid, so it incorporates well. These are my bananas. I kept them in the fridge, and I always, if I want to make banana bread, I have to buy bananas specifically for making banana bread because I never have any left over at the end of the week. We just go through them so quickly. So I bought a few extra bananas at the store and then I hid them in the back of the fridge so myself and nobody else in my house would eat them. And that's also why like the outside looks quite brown, is because the fridge air sort of, I guess, oxidized the color, but they're pretty ripe, which is perfect for banana bread making. I'm using 3 bananas here. You could do 2 if you only have 2, but I really feel like 3 really ripe bananas is like the sweet spot for banana bread. I've seen some recipes use 4 or 5 or even 6, but then I just feel like that really messes with the texture and it's no longer like bread anymore. It's kind of like mush. So if you want more banana flavor though, you could purchase a banana extract. I have that. Actually, I didn't use it this time, but I made banana muffins with it once. And I made banana pudding cupcakes for someone's birthday with it once, and that was really good actually. I need to make that again. It was like a banana cupcake, and then I did like the pudding filling, and I did like a cream cheese frosting, and then I topped it with banana chips and a vanilla wafer. Those were excellent. If you're a fan of bananas or banana pudding, I would definitely recommend that. Maybe I'll have to make that for you guys soon. So now I'm just mashing the banana up. I would say I don't mind a little bit of chunkiness in my banana bread, so I don't mash it until it's like completely smooth. I sort of mash it like I would in avocado, where it's like mostly mush, but there's still like a few sort of fruit chunks. And I just use a fork to do that. You don't have to use like a potato masher or anything. If you want to get it really smooth, if you're really particular about the texture, you could use like a potato ricer and do it that way, but I find that a little bit tedious, and also I just don't own that material to do that. I don't own that kitchen utensil. That would just be another gadget to add to the clutter that's already all over my kitchen counters because I have too many things and not enough cabinet space. And now I'm just gonna add the butter in here. And I'm just gonna mix that all around with my wooden spoon. I own several sort of variations of these wooden spoons, but I do, for some reason, this one specifically is my favorite one, and it's like the only one that I'll use for baked goods or just anything that I need to mix with. If it's not available, then I will use other spoons, but this is the one that I go for specifically. I don't know if any of you guys are like that, where you have certain kitchen utensils or even like certain pieces of silverware that's like your preference. I know people like have preferences about what corner of like the stove top they use. I see a lot of people are big fans of like the front right corner, but I'm left-handed, so personally I this mean? And then I looked it up, and it seems to be good luck, but it also could mean that I'm having twins, which I don't plan on doing that anytime soon, but I did think that was kind of an odd coincidence because I've also had like two separate like tarot readers or psychics or whatever also tell me that I could be having twins, so I guess that's something for future me to watch out for. I don't know, I'd never gotten even like one egg with a double yolk before, and then for the whole carton to be that, I was like, whoa, this is kind of magical. But it was kind of confusing for like my recipe, because how do does that count as two eggs because there's two yolks, or just like a regular egg and a yolk? So I sort of had to do some tweaking and testing, and then I have never gotten a double yolked egg since. And that's my egg story. I am now adding some Greek yogurt. If you don't have Greek yogurt, you could also add sour cream as well. I'm doing plain Greek yogurt because I didn't really want to add any extra sweetness or vanilla flavor. But you could totally do that as well. I'm sure it wouldn't be like that big of a difference. It's sort of like the same principle as like why you don't use salted butter in baked goods. You use unsalted butter so you can control the amount of salt. So I'm using plain unsweetened Greek yogurt so I can control the amount of sweetness and vanilla flavor in the bread as well. Then I'll just stir that in, and I think that is, yep, that's the last of the wet ingredients. I must have added vanilla in there somewhere, probably during my egg rant, and I just didn't realize it. So we have baking soda and baking powder in this. I was confused for the longest time about what the difference between those two baking soda and baking powder leavening agents was. And like the best phrase or like way I've heard it explained that helps me remember is that baking powder puffs things up while baking soda spreads things thinner. So like baking powder is more commonly used in things like cakes that rise up, right? But baking soda is more commonly used in things like cookies that sort of need to spread out. And so that's just like a way that I remember, when I'm sort of baking or developing recipes, like, okay, what am I probably gonna need for this? So maybe that's helpful for you too. I added cinnamon to my banana bread. I like to add a bunch of spices to it normally, like nutmeg and ginger too, but I was sharing this loaf with some picky banana bread eaters who only will have it a certain way, so I had to sort of scale back my spices. I know some people don't put any spices at all in their banana bread and they just want it to be like banana flavored, and some people put nuts in them. I'm not a huge fan of nuts in my desserts. I don't mind like a thinly sliced almond or something like a really chopped up pistachio, but I'm not a huge fan of like walnuts and pecans, just because I feel like when they're used in desserts, they're just like the whole pieces, and in something like a banana bread or a cake, I just feel like those large chunks and like the big textural differences between like the cake or the bread and the nut is like, I don't know, it's just like too much for me. those would be really good in this. Or like maybe butterscotch. What even is butterscotch? I'm not sure. Is it just like another way of saying caramel? Or is it like its own unique thing? I'm not sure. I need to look. You know what? I'll look that up and I'll report back to you eventually. Maybe, if I remember. I love banana bread so much. I would prefer it as like a dessert breakfast thing over like a donut probably, or a muffin on most days. So it's time to oil the pan now. I use avocado oil. That's what's in my little spray container. Just because it's like a nice neutral oil, which just means it doesn't have a flavor. Like olive oil has a flavor, but avocado oil doesn't. And it has a pretty high smoke point too, so that's nice if you're using it for like cooking on the stove as well. Then I just make sure it's all evenly coated. And for loaf pans, I don't typically do parchment paper, just because like the shape is kind of wonky, so it's a little hard to get in there, and it's usually fine. So I'll just add it in there, and I'm using a glass pan because all of my metal loaf pans are currently being occupied by my homemade ice cream obsession right now. So that just means you can cook this in a metal or glass pan and it'll totally be fine. You just might have to adjust the cooking times because when you cook something in a glass pan, it cooks faster. So like for this one, I think normally it's between 50 and 60 minutes that I'll have to put it in the oven for, and with the glass pan, I put it in for like 52 minutes. But if I was baking in a metal pan, it would definitely be closer to the 60-minute mark. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're making this recipe or any other recipe. The type of pan that you use does matter to some extent, and it does affect certain things. So just make sure you're not accidentally over or undercooking your food. Also, for this I decided to do, normally I just put extra chocolate chips on top, but I decided to do a different kind of topping, which you'll see here soon, I think, after I'm done smoothing out my mixture. But it's basically I sprinkled cinnamon and sugar on top. Because I learned this technique from Claire Saffitz, one of her books. I have both of her dessert books, and one of them includes this recipe for like a chocolate wave cake. And the waves essentially are, and also I sliced a banana in half and put it on top. But basically the wave part of the chocolate wave cake is before you put the cake in the oven, you sprinkle a layer of sugar on top of the batter, and then as it bakes and the cake puffs up, and then the sugar like crystallizes, and then you take it out of the oven and it cools and it hardens, and it like creates like a top crunchy layer. And so I tried to do that with the banana bread as well. I mixed cinnamon and sugar, and that also like made the bananas like nice and caramelized as well. So I would definitely recommend this topping method for banana bread for sure. I'll definitely be doing it again next time. I actually have some more bananas in the back of my fridge now, so I could make more banana bread or a different banana recipe. There's the top of the cake, not cake, banana bread. You can sort of see the crackles, right, that have formed, sort of like a sugary shell on top. And like all the sugar on the bananas Howl's Moving Castle and My Neighbor Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service because I actually haven't seen any of those before, and I want to start getting into Studio Ghibli movies because, like, I know they're great. I don't know. I feel like they've just never been on, like, streaming services that I have had before. So I decided, why not, like, start off snacks in her bag. She had like pretzel rods and like a chocolate protein shake. That was her snack of the day. And now we're gonna get to cooking. This is a cast iron skillet, by the way. I switched to those, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years ago, because they're supposed to last. Like, if I take care of these, they will outlive me, which is really cool, but it definitely was a learning curve, especially if you're used to, like, non-stick pans. You definitely have to learn how to, like, properly season and heat up the pan before using it. But I definitely think they're like worth that, investment of labor and learning. Just using a little bit of butter. This actually, I think, is avocado oil based butter. I have like many different kinds of butter in my fridge, so I sort of just grab whichever one I see first, and that's what I use. Just gonna spread it around the pan and wait for it to melt before I add my French toast banana bread thing in there to cook. There we go. Beautiful. this beautiful